Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. All right, we're gonna do our very first Q&A session on this channel. I've never done a Q&A session before, so this is the first time we're gonna do it. And last month, I sent out a question to the community just asking people to submit their questions about anything, and I would come on here, whether it be in a live stream format or a pre-recorded video, and just answer those questions. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go the pre-recorded route. So I think that would be the best way to do this. I got 10 people to respond. So 10 folks kindly sent in their questions. So I'm looking forward to going into these questions momentarily. I've got my popcorn here. So got my little popcorn to nibble on. Got my little beverage of choice. So very excited about that. I've got Blowout, one of my very favorite editions from the Criterion collection, the menu to that fine film that is playing up here. I absolutely love this movie. If you do not have it on Criterion, I highly recommend it. And I've got a stack of movie goodness right here for illustrative purposes as I go through these questions. So without any further ado, let's jump into the first of 10 with Adam Khan. And his question is, hi James, my Q question, what got you into Criterion? And then my second Q or question, what's a favorite movie of yours that nobody knows talks about, could be outside Criterion? So in terms of what got me into Criterion, this goes back to 2013 when back in those days, Costco of all places used to actually cover or actually stock a few Criterions in their movie section. So they had a very small section for movies, and they had like some of the new releases that came out from the studios, but then they also carried about 4 or 5 Criterion editions in Costco, and they would sell them for $19.99. And one day I walked in and I saw Blowout on the shelf, and I just saw this interesting looking cover, had absolutely no idea what it was about. I just saw, John Travolta sitting in this chair, kind of slumped over, with his head in his hand and all this audio equipment around him. It's just a mess. And you just are wondering, what is he thinking? What is going on in this movie? What's this movie about? So I was pulled in by the cover. So that's what initially got me into Criterion, was the Blowout edition I saw at Costco. And then around that same time, someone told me about Thief, starring James Caan. I saw it was on sale at Barnes & Noble for 30% off. So I took advantage of that. And of course, at that time, I didn't know anything about Criterion. I just saw this interesting cover for Blowout, heard about Thief, saw that it was on sale for 30% off at Barnes & Noble, so picked that up. And that was before I even knew anything about the Criterion collection or knew anything about a 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble in July and November. So these two titles here are the early days of getting into Criterion for me. So it all started with these titles, and to this very day, they both stand as two of my very favorite editions in all the Criterion collection. So that's where I got my start with Criterion. As far as a favorite movie of mine that nobody knows about or talks about today, I would say it's a film from 1986 that to this day I don't think has received a Blu-ray release, or I don't even know if it's even available on physical media. It might be available on DVD, but it's a 1986 film starring Richard Dreyfuss, Bette Midler, and Nick Nolte, and it also has Little Richard in it, and it's called Down and Out in Beverly Hills. It's a really funny movie. It's about Nick Nolte. He's playing a homeless man who basically befriends this wealthy Beverly Hills family, Richard Dreyfuss and Bette Midler, and gets entangled into their lives, and a lot of crazy stuff happens, and it's just a fun movie to watch. So it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I would love to see it come out on physical media at some point, but for whatever reason, it just has not. So that would be my favorite movie of mine that nobody talks about today. And it's definitely outside Criterion. So we shall see. Hopefully Down and Out in Beverly Hills will get a physical release, maybe even 4K. So second question is from JB. And JB is asking, I was wondering what some of your kids' favorite movies, and is your family into film the way that you are? Well, my kid is he loves the Harry Potter films. And I started watching some of those films with him over the holidays. So that's been quite a while. But we were able to make it through a couple of those films. And so we've got quite a ways to go, but he's a big Harry Potter fan. He also likes some of the Marvel movies, and he likes a lot of different types of films. Now, my wife is also into movies, but she's not into the same types of movies that I'm in. She's into different types of films. So we have sort of different tastes, but there are some areas where we kind of intersect and we can enjoy some movies together, but we pretty much have a lot of different types of tastes. So yeah, we're definitely a family that loves films, but we just love different types of movies. And then there are just some areas where we kind of can find some commonality, but we definitely love movies. All right, Lucas Forever. Lucas Zach Forever is the third question, and it's a two-parter. Name a Criterion movie previous to Spine 1000 that you don't have yet in your collection, but would like to have it, and a Criterion DVD that you would enjoy seeing upgraded to Blu-ray. The second question is, are you into exploitation films of any sort? All right, so as far as the Criterion movie previous to Spine number 1000 that I don't have in my collection that I'd like to have, and a Criterion DVD that I would enjoy seeing upgraded, I would say a couple that I would like to have would be Spine number 1, Grand Illusion. I would love to see that come back into print, get a 4K release. That's a Jean Renoir film. Of course, Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game, his 1939 classic film, is getting a 4K Ultra HD release here pretty soon. So I would love to see them bring the Grand Illusion, Spine number 1, back into print and give it a nice 4K release. I think that would be very fascinating. And I'd also like to see Spine number 64, The Third Man, Orson Welles' film, come back into print and get a nice 4K release. That would be amazing as well. So would love to see those. As far as a Criterion DVD that I'd like to see get upgraded to Blu-ray, I would say the more Kurosawa films that can get upgraded to Blu-ray, the better. And there is a title from Kurosawa, that's Spine number 465 from 1970, called Dodeskadin, that I would love to see get an upgrade. This is a film about people living in the slums outside of Tokyo. So I would love to see that get an upgrade from DVD to Blu-ray or 4K from Criterion. Fingers crossed on that, we shall see. All right, now as far as am I into exploitation films of any type, I would say, I do like some of those films, like some of the titles that Pam Grier starred in, like Coffee, but also, of course, Gordon Parks' Shaft. So I do like some of those films. They're just a lot of fun to watch. So I do like films like Coffee and Shaft. So those are great films to consider if you don't have them already. Next question, number 4, is from Jim Powers. And he says, hello, James. What was the movie you saw as a child that made you fall in love with movies? Well, for me, that's simple. It's the film that had the tagline, "You Will Believe a Man Can Fly," from 1978, starring Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder. It is none other than Superman the movie. The iconic theme of this movie is known to pretty much everyone, even those who have never seen this film. If you hear that music, that's the theme to Superman. It's just one of the most iconic films of all time. Great superhero movie. It's the superhero movie that started it all. So absolutely love Superman the movie. So that's a movie that I saw as a child. Now, it came out in theaters before I was, going to theaters, but I did have a chance to see it, when it came to HBO and came to broadcast television, which is one of the things I appreciate about, physical media today, is thinking about the way you saw films at that time versus having nice editions. Now, this is the Blu-ray edition. This is not the 4K edition. But the way that we can enjoy films today in really nice 4K restorations and beautifully restored films put on a nice 4K TV is definitely something that I think we're spoiled with these days. But yeah, Superman the movie is one that is hard to beat. The special effects don't really hold up today. It's a little cheesy by today's standards, but the charm is unmistakable. And these three characters, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder and Gene Hackman, the chemistry that they have in this movie carries the day. It's just wonderful. I love the original Superman movie. So that is the film that made me fall in love with movies, Jim. Now, an internet user is asking, are there any movie blind spots that you have? Haven't seen much from a certain genre, actor, director? That is another good question. And the answer to that question came to my mind when I first saw this film here, Cool Hand Luke. I picked this up several weeks back and did a review on this channel. Really nice edition, really nice film. Saw this for the very first time on this 4K release, and this stars Paul Newman. And it made me realize, wow, I have not seen a lot of films starring Paul Newman. In fact, this might be the very first one. So I put a question out to the community, hey, what are some other Paul Newman films that you would recommend? And people recommended several titles, as you always do. I really appreciate it. And the one title that really kept coming up over and over again was this one right here, The Sting. Actually, several came up over and over again, but this one was mentioned multiple times. So I'm looking forward to watching this. I ordered this as a result of your recommendations, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. But I haven't seen a lot of Paul Newman's films, so I know he's been nominated for multiple Oscars. He was nominated for Cool Hand Luke. I don't believe he won. He did end up winning for The Color of Money, I believe. That also starred Tom Cruise. So I'm looking forward to seeing more films from this highly decorated actor. So Paul Newman, I know he was one of the all-time greats. I just haven't seen a lot of his movies. So I'm looking forward to filling that blind spot in my film journey. All right, so Methuselah Bible 969 coming in with question number 6 here. And his question is, hello, James. What is the approximate size of your movie collection? Is space an issue for you? And have you thought about scaling your collection down or up? Well, the approximate size, and I'm going off of the Blu-ray.com site. They have an app where you can actually track your movies. It's the Blu-ray app. And based on that count, I have about 1,300 films in my collection on Blu-ray or 4K. So I have a pretty modest collection. And I would say that for me, space, of course, space is an issue for pretty much anybody. You eventually will run out of space, and you do have some challenges in that regard. I'm still working on some display and cabinet solutions for my entire collection. So I'm still looking into that, the best solutions there. But yeah, space is definitely an issue for most collectors. So have you thought about scaling your collection up or down? Not really. I wouldn't say I'm thinking about scaling my collection up or down, but what I would say is that I'm just being more selective about what I get based on the time that I have to watch movies and actually share thoughts on films. I like to just sort of focus my purchases on sort of less is more at this stage of the game for me, and just focusing on, what are the titles that I'm most likely to watch, enjoy, and be able to share thoughts on with other people. And that's really for me, where I'm at with it. So yeah, those are questions 1 through 6. Methuselah, about 1,300, so a pretty modest collection compared to a lot of other folks that you see out there. The next question, number 7, is from Chapel of Blood 88. Chapel of Blood 88. Do you have any lines that if a film crosses it, you won't watch it? A good example would be that some people will not watch Cannibal Holocaust due to animal cruelty. Could be due to subject matter, stuff that happened on set, behind the scenes, views of those involved, etc. Well, I really can't think of much, to be honest with you. For me, it just comes down to, I think if the film has what appears to be a lot of objectionable content, or just doesn't really speak to me, like House of a Thousand Corpses came out recently. I think it's called House of a Thousand Corpses. Had a really nice looking steelbook and a very nice looking box. So it looked really appealing, but when I read the subject matter, it just didn't speak to me, and it made me think, I don't know if this is for me or not, but in terms of, are there any like lines that if a film crosses a line that I won't watch it? I can't think of any specific examples of that, but for me, it just comes down to if I'm not feeling the movie, or if I feel like based on the description, this isn't really speaking to me, then I probably won't get that film. So hope that answers that question for Chapel of Blood 88. Now, the next question is question number 8, and it is from Nick. Have you ever regretted blind buying a Criterion and return the movie? Do you read the booklets? Yes, I do read the booklets. Maybe not in their entirety, but I do, for the most part, read the essays, even if it's just a brief skim of the essays, to pick up on the general themes that are being discussed in those essays. There's a lot of fantastic essays in the booklets of these Criterion Collection editions, and of course on the Arrow limited editions. There's a lot of great stuff that people are writing about these movies. So there's definitely well worth your time to go through and read those materials. It just gives you more context on the movie. Now, have I ever regretted blind buying a Criterion? Well, there's a couple that fall in the category of ones that I have regretted. One that I have recently come into the fold of accepting and actually beginning to like more than I initially watched it. But the two titles are right here, Days of Heaven and The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. These were two editions that I bought and that I initially regretted buying. The first time I watched both of these films, I just did not like them at all, and I regretted buying them and wish I had gotten a different edition from Criterion. But I recently, in the last few weeks, rewatched Days of Heaven, and I've got to tell you, I've come around to it. I'm not sure if I absolutely love this film, but I have grown to appreciate it more, and I've gone from regretting buying it to being very happy that it's in my collection. Now, I have not had a chance to rewatch The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, but I will give this a rewatch because I'm hopeful that maybe I was just sleepy or tired when I watched this several years ago and just wasn't into it. So I want to give it a rewatch and see if this film will also grow on me, or if it will remain in that category of I regret buying it. So more to come on that. But yeah, see, I just dropped it. Yeah, so Days of Heaven and The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, these are two Criterion editions that I initially regretted buying. But like I said, I've come around on Days of Heaven, but we shall see on The Spy Who Came In From the Cold if that will change for that title as well. So we got two more questions left. Island 007100 is coming in at question number 9. Happy Sunday, James. Kind of a technical question, but do you think the prospect of 8K physical media is very likely? I've been collecting movies since the VHS days, upgrading to Laserdisc, then DVD, then Blu-ray, and now 4K. Most collectors seem to think that we've reached the summit with UHD. What's your feeling based on discussions you've had with other collectors? Yeah, Island 007100, that's a great question. And I think the long and short of it is, I think the likelihood of seeing an 8K format is extremely unlikely. I just do not see that happening. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I just think from the perception of the human eye, what the human eye can appreciate and actually watch based on the distances that we typically sit from our TVs. I think the 4K format pretty much hits that point where it's giving us what the human eye can perceive, to the point where like an 8K format would be an improvement beyond that. But how much of an improvement would that actually be? Would it be a noticeable or perceptible difference, considering that you're sitting at least 10 feet from your TV? So that's one reason that when you look at the law of diminishing returns and the fact that going from VHS up to DVD, big leap. DVD to Blu-ray, it's a leap, but not as big a leap as the leap from VHS to DVD was. And likewise, going from Blu-ray to 4K Ultra HD is a step up, but it's not as big a step up as the leap from DVD to Blu-ray was, and certainly not the step up from VHS to DVD. So you sort of have this diminishing returns over time where each format is better, but it's not that much better. It's not as much of a leap as the previous generation was. And so because of that, I just don't think that 8K is going to be a viable option, at least in the foreseeable future. The market for physical media continues to shrink year over year, and 4K is getting a bigger share of that over time, but it's getting a bigger share of a shrinking market. So I think that's part of the dynamic that's also at play. Is just I just don't see there being a market for an 8K format down the road. But I could be wrong about that. We shall see. There's people who have different opinions on that. You never know what the future may hold, but just based on what I'm seeing, I just don't see 8K being a viable format in the foreseeable future at all. I think we've pretty much tapped out at 4K. So the last question is Daniel in Gulata. Does your partner family like movies as much as you do? Do you have similar tastes or very different? How do you feel about your physical media collection? So as I said before, Daniel, and I answered this in a previous question, we all like movies, but we have different tastes in films. So I like a lot of classic films, a lot of contemporary films that the Criterion collection would release. My wife is not as much into those films, so she's more into different types of films, more romantic comedies, films that you would see on like the Hallmark Channel, or thrillers on like Lifetime Movie Network. I'm not as much into those films, but we do have areas where there is some crossover and commonality, and so we like to focus on those for like a date night to go see a movie. Same with my son. There's a lot of movies that he watches that I don't particularly care for, and vice versa. He's not going to watch a lot of my Criterion films, but we can find points of commonality where we'll go see an MCU movie together at a theater, or I've been watching the Harry Potter films with him, and he's been getting me caught up on the whole world of Harry Potter. So those are areas where we have different tastes, but find some points of commonality that we can agree on and enjoy a film together from time to time. So yeah, so there you have it. Those are my answers to the Q&A questions. I really do appreciate everyone who sent in a question. I'm going to run down the names again. Adam Khan, JB, Lucas, Zach Forever, Jim Powers, Internet User, Methuselah Bible 969, Chapel of Blood 88, Nick, Island 007100, and Daniel in Gulata. Definitely appreciate you sending in those questions. Let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about this format? Do you like this format? What other thoughts do you have and questions do you want to bring to the table? Let's keep this conversation flowing. And again, I always appreciate your feedback, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.